Okay, the first piece I want to look at is by, and I'm probably going to, sorry to say, I might mispronounce people's names a little bit through this, but Christian Ayala, or Christian, or Christian Ayala, not totally sure. Nonetheless, I think this is a really great piece. I do want to say one thing right away that's a little bit important. It's no big deal at this point, but I can tell right away by looking at this that this piece was not compressed. This is lossless, okay? And when I look at the folder to see the size of it, it's about 530 megs, and other people's work is about 22 to 25 megs, so I can definitely tell this is not compressed. And you can also tell because if you lean in real far, you can see right here that the noise layer, you can see it even better here, that I put on from Photoshop, usually that gets kind of blown away by the H.264 render, unfortunately. This looks way better, but it's making a huge file. And, you know, at this point in your career, that doesn't really matter, but when you start having longer projects, like today I'm delivering a 4-minute video for something, and if you didn't compress it at all, it could just be like 20 gigs or something. Just like huge. Something that would be prohibitively large that you wouldn't want to like upload to Dropbox for a client or something. So definitely look at those, the H.264 AE Kickstart setting that I went over and rendered speechless again. All right. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. This animation is really beautiful, and let's check this out. And I think that the pacing and timing throughout this whole thing are really good. All the pauses really work for me, and I love this part. I think that's really nicely edited. I mean, if you can make somebody laugh with a graphic animation, you've definitely got something going on, okay? What I like about that is that it kind of just like, there's not much movement in the mouse, actually. It kind of just hangs there, so you almost feel like a mistake is happening, and then it moves just a little bit, and then it finishes. It's almost like the render bar is kind of like torturing the arrow a little bit. Like it's waiting for it to see, and then it's going to go. So anyway, I thought this was really nicely done. Really good, like I said, timings, and just all these little pauses. Like when the arrow comes in, it lands here, and then there's there's 2 frames, which might be a little bit quick, but nonetheless. I also like this method that Christian, or Christian, used, which is, I saw a few of you use, which I thought was really cool, which is that like the arrow scales down and then moves the CTI over and then scales back up at the end. I think this is a really effective, and I was a little bit surprised by this. I thought this was really cool, just like an effective little grab animation. So kudos to you for that as well, and a bunch of people did that. Christian also built this little highlight panel here, which is definitely next level, so really good. And another thing that I think is really cool about this animation, I'm pretty sure it's on purpose, is that there's this staggered turn on of these buttons, of the stopwatch button here for scale and rotation. Check this out. So like, if we watch it in real time, it clicks on it and highlights them, and then when it clicks on the stopwatch, there's like a little bit of a delay before that next keyframe comes on. And I think that's kind of cool. There's like only like maybe 3 frames between them, but it kind of gives that impression that the computer is like a little bit lagging or whatever. So I love that. Here in this shot, I was definitely hoping that the keyframes would get moved over here, but no big deal. You don't always do that, obviously, so that's a good choice. The only thing maybe I would like find to criticize about this, though I think this animation is really successful, is this little bounce back for the button might be a little too short. Let's see. It's click. So that's 1 frame, 2, 3, 4. So the whole thing's about 4 frames, which might be a tad quick. And also, you know, I think the way you could save a frame or two is by having this, instead of having this switch and have it be 100% at the switch, if you just cut to the blue button and it's like 90% of the size already, and then it just gets like a tiny little bit bigger. Whatever. That's how I did it in the lesson. But overall, I mean, I think this just looks tremendous. So thank you so much for this. And let's look at the next one, which is Irina Almgren, or Irina. I'm not really sure, again, how to pronounce the name. Sorry. But I'm going to call you Irina. So this is a really tremendous job. And Irina put a lot of attention to detail into this, which I really appreciate. So good job. So let's check this out. I love how the render bar actually like moves backwards at a certain point. I totally dig that. I think that's so funny. And you know, it kind of reminds me of the moment when you're like a kid and you're in class and you're waiting for like the last second of whatever period that you're in, and the clock ticks back that like backwards that 1 minute, and you're like, oh man, time's going backwards. In any case, I think this is hilarious. Great job, and I think all the actions are really great, and the timing's really good, and you know, it's very deliberate, this piece, and I love to see that. A couple little details I'll point out is that here, like, Irina has the CTI head turn like a darker color when it gets pressed, so those kind of little things like just really help the eye overall. You see that like on the release it turns back, so that's a really nice detail. And you know, I think these clicks and the pauses and that move, that's perfect. Like, I wouldn't change anything about that. Maybe the way these line up with the CTI, I don't know, I probably did this, but to me that looks like a 1 pixel off, and it's making my OCD like go crazy, but I probably did that. Here, this shot's really good. I think, yeah, I just think you did a really good job with this. I love that little click off right there, by the way. So it's like, Irina also colored these so that, a couple people did this, but so that these, when they were selected, they had like blue color, which I thought was really clever. And then she took it one step farther, which was to like do this little deselect click off right here, which I love. Blink. And so that goes off. And, yeah, I thought this was just really, really nicely done. The only error, I guess, I would notice is I think here, you'd have to get in really quick, but I think the blue bar shifted up 1 pixel right here. You can kind of see that there's a line there. It might have happened when you move your anchor point, so just go ahead and check that again. All right? Great job on that. I love that. So let's move on to this one. Okay. Jared Chambers. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Let's check this out. I think the pace here like is very, very consistent, which I love to see. I think it's a tad slow overall, but all the animation here is spot on. It's really rock solid. And you put on this hilarious ending, which includes some like strange sound effect there of like somebody going, I think, which totally cracks me up. Great job. I love this. So, yeah, like I was saying, I think this is like 10% slower. Not a big deal. I think what's awesome about this is that it's really consistently that pace throughout, so I'm going to take that to be just the way that Jared, you know, really saw this happening. And, you know, I don't have a lot of real comments about this. I think everything's very well done. Maybe the button press here, you could have had that like little bounce back or whatever, but really good job. I think this is like, you know, just very nice, and all the pauses are good. I just think a tad slow, and maybe you could have had a couple more arcs maybe going on in some of the mouse movement, but really nice, nice job, nicely done. Okay, so let's check out John Gagan, I'm guessing. It looks more like Gagan? I'm going to say Gagan. I'm sorry, John, if I'm pronouncing that wrong. You will have to send me the correct pronunciation. But let's check out John's work. I think this one's really excellent, too. Yeah, this is really sweet, this one. I don't think I would change a darn thing here. Maybe the button press at the end, but I think all the timings on this are really right on. Like, I think if you didn't know, if you were just looking at this, you would think that this was just, you were looking at a screen recording of someone manipulating After Effects, right? I feel like the speed of everything, the pauses, the little clicks, everything is working really, really, really well here. Like I said, maybe the button on the click, I think right now it clicks and it's like 100%, and then it gets bigger, like over 100%, which makes it look a little bit bigger than these other buttons here. That's real nitpicky, but I think I'm noticing that correctly. Other than that, I just think this is really, really nicely done, really deliberate, good pauses, good timing. Yeah, good job. Okay, I love this one from Maria Sanchez Fernandez. because all right, so this project is a little bit of a mind fuck, right? Pardon my French, right? A couple people commented on this in the comments, which is that like at 4 in the morning as you're working on this, it can be kind of confusing to know like what's your arrow and what's the CTI and what's the fake CTI and which are the real keyframes and stuff, which I definitely planned out, and because I love like meta stuff like that, I really enjoy that. And I felt like here, Maria sort of did that back to me, which I thought was really wonderful. She kind of animated this to look like it's happening on a really slow computer, and like there's like a lag. But because I'm seeing her work basically for the first time, and other than the messing around, I'm seeing her, this project for the first time and kind of getting to know her work. It kind of fooled me in a wonderful meta way. Like I wasn't sure watching this, and I had to download a project file to see if like she was doing these things on purpose, which she was, or if they were like a series of mistakes that she was making. In any case, I love the way she did this, and I love the approach. And check this out. It's like working on like a slow, laggy computer. Right. So in particular, I love this moment here, right here, the animation as the mouse is gonna like drag this back over, the way it's got these stutters in it, and the way that the like mouse kind of pulls ahead of everything here. This is really sophisticated, actually. And a great joke on me as well. I love it. And you can see that this is happening throughout. So like I really think this is a job well done here. You can totally see the delay there that I'm talking about. In any case, the only thing, like, I think this joke could probably be taken further with this one if you want. And for example, on these stopwatch button presses, I think that right now, if we look at this animation, so watch with me for a sec. So the arrow is actually, it's coming over, and then it gets smaller, 1 frame, and then it's still getting smaller for a few frames there. But the button's already been pressed, and the keyframe has already appeared. And I think it would be funnier, rather than having it happen before the stopwatch click, which is what happens here, because it's like on a slow computer, if like the button's pressed and then there's like a bunch of time before the keyframe appears and the thing turns blue, I think you could totally have fun with that the other way, rather than having it come on first before the press, if it kind of like lagged and came on afterward. You could even potentially build this out so that at the end here, like, they click the render button, but it doesn't like click, and it has to be clicked like a bunch of times, and then it starts rendering like all of a sudden or something. So yeah, so really good job here. I thought this one was really funny and really successful, and totally fooled me, so awesome. Okay, so let's look at, I guess this is Steven Bukowski. So let's check this out. He's got a little bit of stars flying off there. I love it. I actually thought they were hearts in the face with the terrible Facebook impression. So this is great. I think this one looks really good. This one also, I'm going to say, is not compressed, right? Yeah, this is about 558 megs here. So definitely check out the compression again. So, you know, this is just tremendous. I think the pacing, timings, and all of the work here is really good. You know, this error that happens here is really slight, but it's like you know, I think the way that Steven was animating is though there was already some animation in this layer, which was this rotation. And that's great. That's really original. Nobody else did that. The only issue is that when we click on the stopwatch here, this goes back to being gray, and this is still on. So there's some like tiny little error there that I would fix, but that's really easy. But, you know, you really got this here. I really think that the pauses on this are excellent. So let's see. It's like it stops, and then so it stops here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now it's getting smaller. Maybe about 4 frames there. Looks like maybe you're using some eases here too, which is a bit advanced. We haven't talked about easing yet, but still, this is really good. I think it just feels very deliberate to me all the way through. Button press again. I think this should just cut and be smaller rather than what you've done here, which is on the press down you have the original dark button gets smaller and then it cuts and gets bigger, which is really nice. I mean, I'm not like knocking that at all. It's just a little different from how I see it. It feels like a little slow to me. That's the only reason why, because we're kind of like waiting for both buttons to have an action there, but whatever. This is really nice, really a job well done, okay? So last one I'm going to talk about here is from Steve Thurow. Another Steve. I think we have like 3 Steves in my section here. So that's a little bit confusing. We will call you Steve with a V. How's that? So let's check out what you did. I thought this was really nice. Yeah. I love this. Just getting it right there. Really nicely done. Excellent. I love that little like arrow shake there. Really nicely done. So I think this is really excellent. The only thing that I would say is I think right at the beginning, Steve, you got a little the timings are a little fast right in the first couple moves. I feel like you found your timings more and more throughout this piece, but in this first shot, maybe to be really nitpicky, you could like adjust these timings a little bit more. I feel like it's a little fast right at the start here. See what I'm saying? It just kind of like whips up. Maybe if this came on from off screen, we'd have a little bit more time looking at it. This is actually a really important point in some sense, is when you first see things on the screen, I think it takes a few moments for the viewer's eye to kind of process everything. So when they look at this right away, even without any movement, there's a lot on screen. There's type. There's there's actually a bunch of type here. There's a little pause I think that we might need at the beginning just to like see what the heck we're looking at. And for some reason, since this goes so quickly right at the start, I don't feel like my eye gets a proper introduction a little bit to looking at the whole scene, if you will. Yeah, it's a minor point, but it's something I like to think about when you're introducing any graphic elements that are going to be important, like the arrow here. You can kind of think about it like the main actor in a little movie that you're making or a play. And one of the great things about filmmaking and theater is that or the writing for filmmaking and theater, I should say, is that authors always try to give their characters, especially their main characters, a really good entrance, okay? So like an interesting way to come on screen, a cool story moment that kind of introduces them, or some little bit of action or something that kind of allows the audience to get to know them a little bit, like giving them a good entrance. That's sort of like what you do with your stars. So, in a certain way, the arrow is kind of like the star of this. So, yeah, you could always like have a little bit more of a fun beginning. I mean, that's true of pretty much anything, any of these pieces. So, just here at the beginning, I think it's just a little bit quick. That's all. Other than that, I think all the animation throughout is really beautiful, and I think you're using some eases here too, so that's definitely a little bit advanced, but really nice job. Really funny. Great. So those are all the pieces that I want to go over for now. I think they were all really, really good. I just wanted to show some of my favorites. And now let's jump into After Effects and look at a couple of the ones that I thought could use a couple little tweaks to make them just a little bit better.